Hello viewers, Super GT here once again. We are back with another edition of the kart racing, and as you can see, it's lovely, beautiful British weather. The weather you'd kind of expect for the middle of summer, quite annoyingly. I was hoping for a nice, very warm round. In fact, 2 days before this, it was the hottest day in recorded history in Britain, and then we turn up to the event and this is exactly what we have to put up with. But that is the nature of the weather in this country. So as we come out of the pit lane here, this is pretty much the point that I realised that this was going to be an absolute soaking for the entire day. But one must get on with it. So we're going to look at the qualifying here, so just going out onto the track for a bit of practice first, and then it will morph into qualifying. You see just how absolutely saturated it is. It's very, very wet indeed. So this requires very different driving style compared to obviously dry racing. You would have seen some of the previous footage of Buckmore Park was very wet as well. One of the things that people suggested in the last video, so thank you for everyone who suggested using RacinX. So this little spray that you put on the camera and it stops all these raindrops staying in the way. So to begin with here, there might be some raindrops, but it is a lot better than it was in the last Buckmore Park video. So the rain does actually move away. That guy span out there on the right hand side, and that was one of the problems, because there was a lot of grass around the edge of the track, and as soon as someone spins onto that grass, they just splash tons of water back onto the circuit. So it seemed like every lap you go around the track, it was different than the lap before, because the rain was changing, it was drying, and then someone would spin off and bring more rain back on. So it was actually very, very difficult indeed to really gauge the conditions. But what we're looking at here is my fastest qualifying lap. So you can see the lines are very, very sketchy indeed, very, very different than what you would use in dry weather. And we'll have some dry weather running in a few days' time, as I'll bring out another video, because I raced on the Saturday and the Sunday. That brings a close to the qualifying. Let's have the report from our team members, Simon and Justin.
Sorry.
Anonymous. Anonymous. P2.
Two.
Well done, very good.
Who's on pole?
A couple of tenths up and you were ahead of everybody else by a way. By miles. So we'll leave you in there if that's alright.
Yeah, sure.
So they were looking for me for about 10 minutes, because I have a white helmet and black suit, which everyone has got, so I kind of blended in. But you can see here we're qualifying in second place. We've got G3 on the right hand side on pole position. So a very slow build up to the line as we go around the final corner here. So really just trying to get a good launch off the start. Just waiting for Joe Holmes there to launch off the line. And he's going to go very slowly and then eventually get away. So from second on the grid, you're never really expecting too much, because the first corner here is very long right-hander, and then the pusher kart for some reason doesn't pull off to the side, so it kind of just blocks everyone. But the race eventually does get underway, and you can see I just go around the outside to reclaim second. I was down to third temporarily, and you see just how bad the spray is when you're right in behind someone else. So into the hairpin for the first time, go for the deep line. The kart behind goes for a more narrow line. I'm going to get a better exit and just preserve second with a bit of contact, and then through the next right-hander onto the back straight into the pylon corner. As you can see, the pylon standing just on the inside of the turn, and you really do have to absolutely abuse that curb as much as possible over to the left-hand side to get a better run for this right-hander. Big blobs of rain on the way of the camera, unfortunately, but they will slowly move out of the way a lot better than they did again for this previous race at Buckmore Park, where you had one raindrop just in blocking the entire screen for the whole video. So pushing Joe actually up the straight there at the end of lap 1. We've settled into the race nicely through the long stadium corner, more than 180 degrees. In fact, it's nearly 270 degrees. That corner goes on seemingly forever. In fact, I'm still there now, it's that long. Into the hairpin then, slowest corner on the circuit. This one, I think, feels very slow anyway. And just trying to really get that exit speed. So the lines are very, very different in the wet. You can see they're just absolutely avoiding the apex at all costs. You go very deep rotate the kart very quickly and then drive out back in a straight line. And that is typically the quickest way to drive in the wet weather. You just really have to focus on getting a straight exit and therefore a good drive on the way out of the corner, and that seems to work very, very well indeed. So race is settled down here. It's a 2-hour race, and it just happened to be 123 laps on this occasion. Obviously if it was dry it would have been a lot more laps, as these lap times here roughly 56s, 57s, 58s when it's fully wet. When it's fully dry you're looking at 43s or 44s. So you can see there's quite a lot of difference between the wet and the dry running, 13, 14 seconds or so. So still here in second place. In fact, we are pulling away together. Myself and Joe Holmes here at the front of the pack. He's got a bit of a gap there, as again he kind of just gets blurred out by the raindrops once again. But those do slowly move away. In fact, once I go through a puddle, as we have some here, it tended to move and sort of clear the camera. As you can see there, we have some visibility again. Now Joe actually goes in very early. So the pit stop windows. There's pit stop windows basically, and you can't pit at any time you want, but there's 5 different windows you have to pit during each window. It's up to you when exactly, but so they've gone in very early for the first one. We move up into the lead of the race, and it's always good to be at the very front, obviously, because it means you're winning and therefore hopefully you win the race. But in the rain it's very good because you actually have some visibility. It's very difficult seeing when you're right behind someone else. And I'm not sure this camera really does it justice, because my visor was kind of fogging up a little bit. I used the RacinX on my visor as well, go a little bit deep there. Used the RacinX on the visor, it did help, but I was fogging up at the same time. So it's actually really difficult trying to see, and sometimes, honestly, when you're behind 2 or 3 karts, you're just almost guessing where the corner is. You're just kind of turning in and hoping that your memory serves you correctly and that the corner is actually there, because you can't actually see a thing. You might as well just be closing your eyes. But at this point here, we adapted a new line, so there was actually a lot of standing water on the main straight. So we're going to go back through the final corner again, lap 11 coming on to 12. So moving over to the right hand side here, and then moving back slowly across back to the left hand side of the track. So there seemed to be lots of standing water, and you'd honestly be aquaplaning all over the place with just basically zero grip if you got into the wrong places on the track. Drifting nicely through turn 1, sliding through turn 2, as you then come towards the hairpin of turn 3. Treacherous big braking zone this. Very easy to make a mistake, and lots of people do make those mistakes going into there. Probably the place where you'll see the most people facing the wrong way after they've spun out at that corner. And then the right hand hairpin as we go then back towards pylon. So this one, a very tricky corner. I found that going in really early and mullering the curb was the best way through the turn. And trying to find the grip is the key to success. So we have the signal to come in for our pit stop now at the end of lap 12. By this point we had maybe a 5 or 6 second advantage, so actually building up quite a good gap going into our first pit stop. So I'm going to be double stinting, so basically I'm going to jump out of the car and then jump straight back in. So once that fuel goes in, we return to the car, press the power as quickly as possible, and then put that fuel cap back on. Getting the process down quite nicely now, and out of the pit lane, massive splash of water, just to remind you that you are being sent to the water realm as we begin lap number 13. So down to 7th by this point, courtesy really of having done our pit stop where other people haven't. So you lose maybe 15-20 seconds, I'd say, in one of the pit stops, and actually you lose less time when it's raining because the karts on the track are going slower than they would in the dry. So you lose a little bit less when it's raining compared to when it's dry. So lots of battling going up ahead here. So you see here just getting a really good run out of this corner, coming towards pylon. It concertines up a little bit as we go through here. And then this car on my left wants to go for the move. I want to go through the move on him. It turns out to just be a savage double lunge overtake on the pair of them, back up into 5th as we come through the final corner. The left into then the right onto the back straight. This guy goes a little bit wide, doesn't get a good exit. We go past him, someone else in the pit lane as well, up to 3rd. So from 7th to 3rd on our out lap, someone here going for the wider line. Typically that is the better line, but I found that going in narrow and then back to the outside what's the best line, and that seemed to really work. Plus you could overtake a lot easier by doing that. So back into second at this point. So really, again, it's just a matter of just trying to churn in the consistent and fast laps, as many as possible, without interruption. And when you get up to the back markers, just try to get past them as quickly as possible without losing too much time. Because really, that really is what endurance racing is. A lot of the time, it's all about having good pit stops and then making the most of the back markers, get past them as quickly as possible, and minimising your time loss. As we see here, another. Actually, I think this is for the lead now. So this guy, I'm not sure if he's pitted or not, if I've just caught up with him genuinely. But looking for the move here, coming up into pylon corner. Is it quite going to open up? Yes, it is. The gap is open. I'm going to swing myself up the inside and take back the lead of the race. So that's a fairly good start so far. We've moved from first back down to 7th after the pit stop, back into the lead. So now it's really a time of just trying to, again, churn out those consistent fast laps and just get past the back markers as quickly as possible. You get these big clusters of groups here, so 4 people up the inside of this guy, and we get the job done. And another group of 3. I'm just going to go absolutely full send out of nowhere, and I'm not sure the camera really does it justice, but that was actually quite a big hit. So you can get penalties, of course, for pushing people out of the way and overtaking. We call it ABC, advantage by contact, as in you've overtaken someone by pushing them out of the way, essentially. So to avoid that, I did push him. I let him go back past and then avoid a penalty. And in an endurance race, that is very important, of course. Well, it's important in any type of racing, really, but I think it's extra important in an endurance race. So, varying lines taken by all 3 of us here, as we, myself and the red guy here, both go past someone who went very wide. Normally the wide line is the better line, but through turn 1 it wasn't quite working as well as it normally would. Here though, go very deep. These 2 guys get kind of tangled up with each other, and you can see here just getting the better traction on the way out because I took the deep line, and then getting past the pair of them on the exit off the corner. So quick progress being made through those back markers, which is always very useful. And I think by about this point in the race, lap 22, having again maybe about 6 or 7 second advantage over second place. So it turns out that G3, so Joe Holmes, who was in the lead, they have some sort of engine problem with their car. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but they pitted, went out with a different driver, and then some sort of incident happened, some sort of reliability issue, I think it was. So they dropped right out of the running. So at this point, it really was a gap to Titan Motorsport and to Racing Classics in 2nd and 3rd, respectively. So a lot of questions last time around on the Butmore Park videos about the camera I'm using. It's the GoPro Hero 7, and I've used a GoPro vented cycling helmet mount, something along those lines, and then you wrap it around the chin part of the helmet. That way you don't have to stick one of those sticky pads down, which is permanent, semi-permanent, and this you can basically remove it. Trying to wipe the visor down there, so you can basically see nothing as I'm up behind 3 carts here. So again, just trying to get past the back markers as quickly as possible. The race going really well at this point. So 2-hour race, as we said earlier. So we're going to do roughly 40 minutes each, and then I'll swap over to the next driver. This guy just up ahead in the red suit there, just went past him. He made contact with this guy just a moment ago, just lost all his momentum, so I'll take advantage of that. Down the main straight then, again you see everyone moving over to the right hand side here, and then moving back to the left. That's going to open up the inside on the right hand side. It's quite treacherous doing that move because there is a lack of grip on the far right hand side of the track as you go into that corner, but drifting nicely through turn 1, stadium corner. Brilliant corner that, in both the rain and in the dry. I found that in the rain you have to kind of use the brakes to initiate a slide and then keep the power on to keep the back end sliding round, because these cars do have quite a lot of understeer. You probably see that by the amount of steering angle I'm putting in. Very hard tyres, they don't turn very well. There are a lot of comments basically saying that I need to be smoother, but honestly, if you're smooth, if you're too smooth, the car doesn't turn. It just doesn't turn at all because the tyres are so hard. So you really do have to put quite a lot of force into it to really get it to grip. So luckily there, the kart ahead, just moving into the pit lane, so I didn't really lose any time trying to overtake that guy. And sometimes you get a bit of luck like that. So another big group here. This is lap number 39 now. I think the gap up to about 10 seconds by this point. And you put yourself on the outside here, very risky, because on the right hand side there is essentially the Mariana Trench. If you fall into that, you just disappear into the abyss and get eaten by a load of wild fish or something. Because honestly, that puddle there is ridiculously deep. So putting yourself on the right hand side, coming through the right hander of turn 2, very, very risky business, as the person on the left might not see you and just run you off, which is not ideal. So backing out on that occasion. So catching up with the next 2 back markers here, just trying to negotiate a path through. On this occasion we go up the inside and just hold this guy to the outside, and you can't really do anything, and then just get the inside on the way out. So the main thing there really is just people go wide, you just go right next to them and then just hold them out to the outside as far as you can, and then just take a slightly more inside line and just hope that you have enough grip. On that occasion I did, and to get the better traction on the way out. So half the moves you kind of do on the way in, half of them you do on the way out. The space kind of opens up there almost behind this guy. He's going to move back over to the left hand side here. The space opens up on the right. Again, we're going to go for this favoured move into turn 1. The space opens and then move back out to the left hand side halfway through the corner, and then come back to that very late apex there, and that gives you a good drive through turn 2, which you can be flat out, but you do have to get the line dead right. And then further around the race, lap number 41 now. A couple of back markers here. He goes really wide. You see you get a much better exit. Maybe side by side, bit of contact into turn 2. The penultimate corner. Tried to go around the outside. You see just how little grip there was. I turned in and nothing happened. So you really do have to be on the correct line. For those who've watched the Hockenheim Grand Prix, you would have seen sort of the dry line forming. And even though it is fully wet here, you still get that effect of, if you're not on the correct line, then you're just going to have no grip at all. So it is kind of a similar effect to what you would have seen in that Hockenheim Grand Prix with the dry line forming. If you're on it, you're good. If you're not on it, then you're not good. And on this occasion, just up the inside at the hairpin, and we get the job done there quite nicely. So varying lines. There are some corners where you can take very different lines. A lot of the corners you do have to sort of stick to the one designated route. Otherwise you'll be sliding wide for eternity. So lap number 43, I've been called in, I've been summoned into the pit lane. This will be my final lap, and again very foggy. This guy just spins up ahead of me. Wasn't quite sure where he was going to go, because you do have to make a very quick decision as to which side to overtake. But fortunately that occasion just stuck to the inside. So that is the end of my stint. First out of 30, ending at about 12 or so seconds ahead, and then just sliding into the pit a little bit too hot. There was almost no grip there, basically zero grip. That's my excuse anyway. I just slid into the fuel bowser, which didn't really please the start. But we move over to our second driver. But there we go, that was the first stint done. Justin out, Simon out as well. And eventually, after 2 hours of racing, we got overhauled by the Titan and the Racing Classics team, and we moved down to 3rd place. But you know what? The result isn't what's so important. It was just the fact that I really enjoyed it. It was actually really good fun out there, trying to overtake everyone as quickly as possible with almost no grip, just trying to find the correct lines. And ultimately, we came home 3rd with the podium. But that's it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it as always. There'll be plenty more, or a couple more karting videos from Rye House, this track here, and those will come out very soon, so do be on the lookout for those. But that's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Goodbye.